And like you said, I expect that from everybody else, but that doesn't happen.
No, it's totally unrealistic. And that's like that is a hard thing for me to wrap my head around. Hey everyone, I'm Laura.
I'm Kristen.
And this is Souls in Bloom, where Kristen and I have open, candid, unscripted conversations in hopes of inspiring your personal growth and ours too. And today we're discussing expectations of other people, of ourselves, and just like managing those expectations. I don't know. I feel like we, in general, like kind of put these unrealistic expectations on ourselves and everybody around us. And I don't know why we do that. So I thought it'd be worth having a conversation about.
I definitely do that. I'm guilty as charged.
Yeah. Give me a specific example. So like you do this to yourself, you were saying, in the green room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you kick us off and elaborate on that?
I do have high expectations of not only myself, but everybody else. And I think I have high expectations of other people because my expectations of myself are high as well. So like I expect things to be the same for other people and like how they treat me and how they live their lives. Like it could be something that doesn't even affect me. And I'll be like, wow, like that's not how I would do that. Or, like whatever. Like I'll give an example. When I used to work at the doctor's office, not everybody else that worked there had the same work ethic as me. Like I did my job the best that I could do it because that's how I was taught. Like, so when you see other people doing a job at your job and that may not be doing it the way that you would do it, it's very frustrating. Like I would always get like very annoyed or like disappointed and it's not even my job. Like it's like they're doing it over there and I'm just like, well, why don't you do it this way? And why don't, whatever. I'm thinking of the different reasons, like how I would do it and stuff. And one of the other ladies that worked there, we actually still talk today, like to this day. Same work ethic as me, same high expectations. And she would get even more annoyed than me and be like, what is wrong with these people? Why don't they, do this the way they do this and that, and I'm like, oh, their work ethic is not as good as ours. Like, so a lot of it has to do with, understanding that not everyone has as high standards or high expectations as yourself, if that's the case. And I have to try to like let that go. Like I have to try to not let it affect me because it really doesn't affect me if it's like somebody else doing their own thing. But it's hard because, I do things a certain way with a certain standard. I would think that that's the way everybody did it. But but it's not. I feel, do you think you have high expectations of like yourself and others? And not really like your family, but like other, like random.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's as you're talking, I'm like, that's so relatable. I remember at my old job and when I used to work in workers' comp, I was the receptionist. Like that was the job I came into. And as I advanced in the job, I became a clinic manager. I was starting to set up, I managed what they're called independent medical exams. They're basically like for injured workers. And I managed all the clinics. It was like multiple clinics a week. And I was the backup receptionist, even though it's like very different jobs. But when the other, like they hired a different receptionist. And when she actually moved from a different department, and her and I became very good friends. I mean, we sat next to each other. We actually shared a space, and I would just do my clinic thing from the front desk, and she would answer phones and do all the receptionist duties. And then like when she went on lunch, I would just take over and stuff like that. But it was the same thing with work ethic. I was very different and diligent in that position, even though it's like seen as like a lower position and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, just a receptionist. There was a lot to do. A ton of mail went through that office. And I was just very like on top of it, methodical,
Mhm.
like XYZ.
Yeah.
And she was not. She was sufficient in the position. I'm not saying she's like a terrible receptionist or anything, but even like other employees would tell me that like they wish I was back doing that position just because the way I would handle phone calls and stuff like that. I handled a lot of stuff myself, like because she would, for example, someone would call in and ask for one of the coordinators, and that was their title, whatever. And she would say, yeah, like, okay, yeah, here you go. Like, hold on 1 second, and then transfer them. Whereas if someone called for me, I'd be like, sure, is there like, what did you need help with? Like, I would try to help them first.
Yep.
And then if I couldn't help them, then I would pass them on to their coordinator. A lot of times they're just calling to find out when their appointment was. That's easy enough for me. Okay, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's like at this location, this hour. And oh, thanks, and grateful. So it alleviates all the other employees from having to do that additional work and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
She wasn't like that at all. And it would just drive me nuts because I'm sitting next to her all day. I'm just like, it's so easy. Just type in Smith and it'll pop right up with all their information. Like, how is that? But she didn't want to deal with it because I think of the work ethic
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
so I think, and it's not just in work. I've had this happen too with like friends and stuff where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I get, and this is where it screws me the most, I think, and family too sometimes, is like, I expect certain things because I would do them for the other person. So, like, for example,
Yeah.
um, let's like, well, right now, I have a friend that I told I was pregnant to, like, pretty soon after I found out. And I haven't heard anything. She's an out of state friend and all that. We only talk occasionally, but usually, like with major events, like if she told me she was pregnant, I would probably be checking in with her like every month or two.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't heard from her since I told her. She's
Mm.
like, "Oh wow, that's crazy," you know. And that's all I've heard. So like on a level, I'm like butthurt because I haven't heard anything from this friend in months. So I'm like, this is
Yeah.
a major life event. But you're right. You have to set like your expectations for that person. And my husband says this to me too. He calls me out on the same crap all the time about me expecting from others what I would do for that person. He says, they're not you. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so simple, but so true. And
Yeah.
that's true with the work environment as well. These other people are not you. And I think the high work ethic, I don't think that's the norm. I think that's the exception.
It's
And
not
that's
normal.
something,
Yeah.
no. I used
Which
to have
is
from sorry, I could keep
no, that's
ranting.
okay. It's sad. I was
It
just gonna say
is.
it's sad that
Yeah.
people just mainly do well for the most part. Most people just kind of do the bare minimum to get by,
Yes. Yep.
and that's not how I was raised. Clearly,
Yeah.
that's not how you were raised. But everyone's different. I get it, and we all have different like days and stuff like that. But I know, as for me, I put my all into everything I do.
Yeah.
And like you said, I expect that from everybody else, but that doesn't happen.
No, it's totally unrealistic. And that's like that is a hard thing for me to wrap my head around because I'm like, but it's not difficult. Like
Right.
a really quick one example I'll give is one of my first jobs. I worked at a dog daycare and boarding training place, whatever, for a few years. And it a lot of times there was just like downtime. We're just monitoring the dogs, making sure no one's trying to attack each other, and just like chilling in between dog
Yeah.
walks or feedings or whatever. I could not stand just sitting there watching dogs. And there's like other people in the room too. We all have the same job. We're just like, we're not really needed in that room simultaneously
Mhm.
because somebody's monitoring. So, like, there's nothing to do. A lot of times employees would bring books and stuff. I would start tackling tasks around the shop. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget the one day that I decided to clean the shop back. Oh my gosh, that thing was gnarly. I took it over to like we had this like little indoor shower kind of thing. I don't know. And the hose that like vacuumed up all the dog hair and stuff to
Mhm.
the shop vac, I don't think that thing had ever been cleaned. And so while we just have downtime, I'm like, I'm gonna go start cleaning stuff. They're like, if you want to, because they would just sit there and read a book or like whatever. And I'm like, yeah,
Right.
I need to do something. I need to be productive here, not like
Yeah.
twiddling my thumbs. So that was like one of the most disgusting things I've ever cleaned was that vacuum. It was like an inch thick, caked around of like doo doo and all sorts of body fluids and hair, and it was foul. But I felt so accomplished once that thing was totally clean. And then
Yeah.
I wanted acknowledgement. Like I did something good.
Mhm.
Why can't you all do something like useful around here instead of just
Yeah.
sitting there reading a book or going out for your cigarette smoke? You know, going back to our conversation from last time.
Yeah.
We take many breaks a day. That's another thing. It's like you're just doing that because you don't feel like doing this other thing.
Yeah.
I would physically watch employees see dogs take a dump on the floor and then be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go have a cigarette," and I'm like, "You saw that happen too."
Right.
Like, I guess
Ugh.
I'll clean it up, you know,
Yeah.
like lazy.
Yeah, a lot it has to do with that too, or like the people that like because I've dealt with this a lot too, where people will like say they're gonna do something, but then don't do it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like I really take people's word. Like if somebody tells me something, I'm going to believe that it will happen or that they will do it,
Mhm.
because then why would you say it? And
Yeah.
I have two people that I could think of, which I'm not going to name names, but
Uh-oh.
they are known for, going back on their word or canceling things last minute or,
Mhm.
and like to the point where like I get excited for whatever the event is or whatever that they said yes to. And then either they don't do it or they cancel last minute or whatever. And I'm just like, well, why didn't you? Why maybe you should have just said no to begin with. Like that's like a
Yeah.
whole other story that I could get into about people that will say yes just to like get the person off their back or to maybe make them happy. And then
Mhm.
this one friend in particular used to do that just so she didn't have to say no or come up with an excuse or just say no because she didn't want to. She even told me once that she says yes just to please the person and then comes up with an excuse later on to cancel. And I'm like, but isn't that
Wonderful.
worse?
Yeah, that's totally worse.
Like
Yeah,
she
that's
used to
not
do that all the time to me. I don't talk to her anymore, but she used to do that all the time to me to the point
yeah.
where I started noticing and then she told me and then going forward when she would say yes to things I'm like, "Are you really sure?" Like, are you really, really sure? Because you can say no, because if you say yes and then you cancel, I'm gonna be really mad.
Yeah, seriously.
So like expectations like that too, really, I hold to a high expectation. Like if someone's gonna say something, I'm going to expect that you follow through with it. And that's like with
Yeah.
me, I hate canceling. Like I had to cancel our podcast
I was just thinking that,
recording.
I was like, "No wonder you must this is why you were so apologetic." I was just like, "Whatever, it's fine."
I'm like, I'm so sorry.
It didn't bother me at all. I'm just like,
And
"Whatever."
like I
You get to
get
move
it if
sometimes.
yeah, like I get it if things happen, totally understandable. But like this specific person, it was like a habit for them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, that's a
So
different
there's obviously a
story.
difference if, things happen, things come up, that's fine. But this one person where it gets to become like a regular occurrence, it's not cool.
Yeah. No, and it's kind of funny that she kind of exposed herself to you and then did it to you.
Yeah. Well, because she used to do it to guys, like when she met guys at the bar or whatever when we were single. And
Mhm.
it's almost like she said she didn't want to like hurt their feelings, but then she had to come up with like excuses to get out of the date or to, or she would just block them or, like, wouldn't it just be easier to say, no, I'm so sorry. Then you're done. You're
Yeah.
scot free. It's done. It's cleared out. You're not getting their number. You're not coming up with excuses. You're not accidentally running into them at the bar again. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
which
that'd be awkward.
has happened, which has happened to her.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, you don't want that. It's just I think people are afraid of confrontation maybe or don't want to deal with the confrontation,
Yeah.
which is not how we would handle things. We'd
No.
be like, "No, I don't want to do that."
Mhm. Yeah.
I used to be that way, like your friend, because I didn't like confrontation. I don't like saying no to stuff. But the older I get, the more I stop. I don't care. I'm just like over obligatory things I don't want to do. I'm just like, no, I
Yeah.
appreciate you inviting me, but that doesn't sound like fun. So I'm out.
I can say no, and it does hurt sometimes because like I don't want to hurt anyone's feeling, or I don't want to let them down, or if they're really excited about something and I say no, I don't want to like, you know, turn them down or make them upset. But then again, I think about what's going to happen if I say yes and then I don't want to do it, then I'm going to be, in a position where I'm not happy and dreading it or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like I said just before, I'd rather just nip it in the butt at the beginning
Yeah, that's true.
and be done with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me ask you this. What
Hmm.
about expectations for yourself? Like you personally, do you ever have anything? Because I know I can't think of something specific. Maybe if you talk, I will. But I know there's things I've beat myself up about because I had this expectation of like
Yeah.
how it would go. I would say this falls for me personally is like time management. I have horrible time management. I always think everything's going to take me way faster than it ever does. And so like then I get upset with myself because I have this expectation that I'm going to accomplish excuse me, XYZ like in the allotted amount of time and I don't do it. So then that for me ends up in this like I don't know, beating myself up kind of situation, I guess. Do you
Yeah.
have anything like that for you personally, not with anybody else, but with yourself?
Yeah. Like that, the time management too, because I feel like I can do so many things, or maybe so many things need to be done. And like, yeah,
Mhm.
I'll have time. Like, I have my planner that I have things written out that I have to do. And if I don't get to them, I'm like, damn it, like I have very high expectations of myself. Like I always have. And over the years, I've learned to have a little more grace with myself
Mhm.
and a little bit more flexibility, especially since starting my business,
Yeah.
because I don't know, like at the very beginning, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was teaching myself everything because I'm everything. I'm my own bookkeeper, my shipping department, my my sourcing,
Yeah. Yeah.
my tech team,
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I've gotten easier on myself over the past few years, but even in school, or like jobs that we just talked about, I always tried to
Mhm.
do my best. And if I didn't do good, or didn't finish, or whatever, failed, let's just say, I would kind of try to figure out why and either be okay with that and move on, or try to like be better in whatever situation it was.
Right.
A lot of things with school, like especially college, I had a really hard time. Like school was like not my thing. but,
I know how you
but,
feel.
like reports, like essays, like I hated doing those exams. Like the anxiety was through the roof, but I
Mhm.
got through it. I passed high school and graduated college, fine, but my expectations were way higher than I thought they were way higher than they should have been. But I guess maybe that's best, like for somebody. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I think it might be better because then you strive to be better. You just
Yeah.
have to take the disappointment better, like you have to be
Well,
nicer
yeah,
to
that's true
yourself
too.
if things
Yeah.
don't go right.
I'll tell you, I would never ever trade my work ethic for being less productive and less worried about stuff.
True.
It's
Same.
I don't think I would see half the success of my life without it. And like that's my brother and I talk about this a lot that like we felt like our parents really drilled in work ethic to us because
Yeah.
he's got the same thing. He has the same struggles at work with like slacking employee like coworkers and all that stuff. And yeah, I would say like it's a good quality for
Yeah.
sure. The bad quality is just beating yourself up over it, but I
Mm.
think if we kind of approach it maybe in that way of like giving advice to somebody else, like treating ourselves like we would talk to somebody else, maybe we would be a little kinder to ourselves. Because I know some of
Yeah.
the things I beat myself up over, I would never say that to another person, you know?
Right.
So
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
know, just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like it's just a lot about being flexible, like with yourself. I mean, I go through, I struggle with it all the time, you know, so it's just having grace, being flexible, maybe taking that extra day to finish whatever you didn't finish.
Yeah. Well, so that kind of covers ourselves and our expectations of other people in certain ways. But I was thinking more when we were talking about this topic of conversation. I was thinking more about like the way I sometimes want people to do things exactly how I would in their own lives, like not just work or something where I'm like watching these people work every day. But
Hmm.
so specifically, I won't call her out by name or anything. I have a family member who has been struggling with her weight for ever since I've known her. And she makes very poor diet decisions. Every time I see her, she's got like the box of donuts open on her countertop or like whatever. She's always she has a sugar addiction, I'm fairly certain, which I can relate to. But I just want like I'm always I don't know, I've had a couple conversations with her where I'm just like, you know, you really need to get it together because she's had like major illnesses, like she's had cancer and like
Wow.
um liver issues and a lot of issues relating to her weight that her doctor has been like, you need to lose weight or it's all downhill from here kind of thing.
Yeah.
But still she persisted. So like she has like food addiction issues, which I understand is a problem that requires more help than me just trying to shake her
Yeah.
verbally. Like,
Yeah.
stop eating, you know. And so I guess what I was thinking of was managing expectations in that way of like how other people deal with things. Cause like we said, they're not you. So like,
Hmm.
whereas I'd be like, oh man, I just went through this like major health scare and my doctor is like warning me to lose weight. That would be plenty to have me like totally overhaul my diet.
Yeah.
But she's not me. And I don't know. I guess we have to sometimes let things go like that.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
dealt with it at the doctor's office because it was a cancer doctor's office. And
mhm.
I mean, the amount of patients with lung cancer that continued to smoke cigarettes
Yeah.
baffled me. Like there was this one in particular that I'm thinking of who would literally be back in the chemo room getting his chemo, finish, say, "Oh, I have to go run outside. I'll be back to go over like, you know, his copay or whatever." Smoke a cigarette and come back in. Or one time he even walked out with the freaking pole, you know, and all his bags and stuff with the IVs and walked outside to smoke a cigarette. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
Wow.
So like I get it. Like, but then there's, you
Yeah.
know, there's the others who follow the regimen and, you know, try to do better and stuff. But there was the few that were like, nope, I'm gonna do it anyway. And
That's so
it's
wild to me. Like, because you're
yeah,
there trying to give yourself your best chance and then
yeah,
doing this other thing that negates your efforts.
yep,
That's wild.
yeah.
I
And
mean, I guess that's all an addiction related subject, really.
yeah, and a lot of it was their expectation of their life. Like like I remember him telling me, "Well, if I have cancer and I'm gonna do, you know, these chemo treatments, I might as well smoke anyway because I have the cancer." But we're trying to help that. Like we're you know what I
Right.
mean?
You're going through treatment. How does that make any sense?
Yeah, so their expectations are completely different. They
Right.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
why bother if I have the cancer? I might as well just keep smoking.
Yeah. I had a friend who had that mentality too. He used to drive around without a seatbelt and said, if God wants to take me, then he'll take me one way or the other. Like, it
Oh,
doesn't
geez.
matter.
Yeah.
Like, this is the weirdest logic I've ever heard. Like, oh, what's going to happen? It's going to happen. Might as well, like, up my chances of not
Right?
surviving the car crash.
Mhm.
What? I don't get it. But I'm not them. So I
Right.
guess it makes sense in their head. It just, I can't compute that sort of logic in mine at all.
Exactly. Right. It makes sense to them.
Yeah.
For real.
Oi. So what can we do? What can we do? If
Well,
in your situation, you just let them smoke themselves to death. I don't know, because like that's not anyone that you have to care about. But if it was a family member,
oh,
that's
yeah.
like a different story, right? Because
Yeah.
then we do care. We're invested
Right.
in that
And
other person.
there has been patients that we were able to stop the cancer and like treat it, and they went into remission.
Yeah,
So, for him to do that, or any of the other patients that were doing that, you have a chance. Like, there is a chance that you can overcome this. People,
yeah,
like, I've watched it happen, the patients that go into remission and stay cancer free. Like, it's possible. So, like,
yeah.
for them to like not think that it's possible for them, it's sad. But if it was my family member, I would be definitely like, no, you give me those cigarettes right now, and I'd flush them down the toilet.
But is that a long-term solution? Like,
Uh,
I feel like, they're just going to go out and buy another pack if they really want to.
yeah.
So what do you do? Like, the notes I wrote down, um, is to have that serious talk with them, maybe with your family member. That didn't work for me, but you know, it might work for you. Like a
Me-
one-on-one, not like a we're all concerned about you because then people feel ganged up on and blah blah blah. But if you have
yeah.
like heart to heart, a one-on-one, really get their feelings about things, maybe you can kind of get to the root of why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is uh, leading by example
Hmm.
and helping with whatever the task is. So, for example, if you wanted to get them to stop smoking, I mean, I guess if you don't smoke, you can't really lead by example. But if you have another habit, you could, be like, hey, I'm, giving this up because it's very difficult for me to do, but I want to show you that like
Yeah.
hard things can be done. Or like maybe you can make a deal. Like I give up social media on my phone for, a month if you give up smoking for a month, or make it a bet or something like that. And
Yep.
then like in my case, and this didn't work for me either, but I tried to get this person to go exercise with me.
Uh-huh.
Um, I offered to like go walking with her in the evenings and things like that. Like after the day was done, my husband was off work, so I could come and just like give my time to her so we could go like do it together.
Hmm.
That never worked out because it was always an excuse for why,
Yeah.
like it's too hot, too cold, too dark, like whatever the excuse was. But I tried. And that's the other thing too. Like if you have to realize people aren't you, and you have to also accept that you can't change people.
Yeah.
You have to manage your expectations for others and realize that they may not meet your expectations, and that's just the way it is. I don't want to say that's good or bad because it is what it is. I don't know, for better or worse.
Yeah. And you can try, like you said, you can have a talk with them, tell them how you feel. You can do
Yeah.
everything you can. And then if it, then you gave your all. That was, you tried, and that's all you
Yeah.
can do.
Yes. I would say to elaborate on that, do what makes you comfortable with yourself, and don't worry about them. In other words, let's say they, you know, my family member has a heart attack and dies. If I had never said anything, I would not be comfortable with myself. But because I know I've tried multiple routes to try to help this person, I can live with myself that they, their decisions led to their demise or their downfall or whatever. Same with
Yeah.
this smoking, like a family member smoking or whatever the situation is. If something if shit hits the fan, you should be able to live with yourself and how you dealt with the situation.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to be comfortable, is with your own actions. Stop letting other people's decisions affect your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And then the last note I made here is to, when they do change it, they are trying to change the habit, praise them. This is the same like with coworkers or anything like that. Positive reinforcement, raising kids, whatever, you're training somebody at work, whatever the case is, you're trying to teach somebody how to treat you because they treat you like crap and you don't know how to confront it. When they do something positive, praise the positive, acknowledge the positive.
Yep.
Oh, you didn't buy a new pack today? That's awesome. Wow. Good for you.
Yep.
And never, I told you you'd feel better after you did that. No, don't do that. Don't do the I told you so route, because that nothing will shut a person down faster than like, oh, because they need the credit for themselves because they are doing hard things. And like when you say like, I told you that, that instantly takes their own personal, credit away. And we don't want to do that. We want to encourage. So that's awesome. Well done. I'm really proud of you. Like, that's great to hear all those positive things,
Agreed.
And that encourages people in general to like do more of that. Like, even if it's just a behavior, like what Kristen said with her friend earlier that canceled all the time. When they cancel early, right off the bat, or don't say, no, I can't do that right off the bat, that's when you give them the praise. Oh, well, thanks for letting me know in advance. I actually really appreciate like the heads up and not the last minute cancellation. Because then that person, hopefully in the future, will be like, okay, even on a subconscious level, they alter their behavior for the praise, because humans like praise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes to all of that.
All right. Did you have anything else to add?
No,
that was my final thoughts on that.
No, that was a perfect ending.
All right. Then we're done. It's done. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks with another episode. Thanks so much for watching this one. And yeah, see you later. See you in the next one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.